Did you ever think growing older would feel like this? Most people imagine aging as slowing down a little, maybe picking up a new hobby or spending more time with family. But what they don't expect are the subtle, surprising, and often frustrating changes that sneak in over time. Like suddenly forgetting someone's name, even someone you've known for years. Or feeling completely drained after doing something as simple as making lunch. These aren't rare issues. They're common realities many older adults face, and they can be jarring. But you're not alone. And there are ways to face each of these challenges with strength, grace, and even a little humor. Meet Diane, a 68-year-old woman living just outside Denver. A few years ago, Diane was constantly on the move. Hiking, baking for the neighbors, leading local charity events. She had energy that people half her age admired. But lately, she's noticed things are changing. And not always in ways she expected. Tasks she once did without thinking now require more effort. She's found herself feeling isolated, frustrated, and even a little embarrassed by some of the things she's experiencing. Diane's story may sound familiar. And if it does, know this. You're not broken. You're not alone. You're aging. And with aging comes change. Some of it hard, yes, but all of it manageable. Let's walk through some of the most common, but rarely talked about changes that come with age, and most importantly, what you can do to face them head on. Forgetting names or small details. Diane recently ran into her old neighbor Carol at the grocery store. They'd shared countless conversations over the years, and yet, when Carol smiled and said hello, Diane blanked. No name, no clue. Just that sinking, awkward feeling of, I should know this. It's a moment many of us have experienced. And while it might feel like a sign of something serious, it's actually a very normal part of aging. As we get older, our brains filter information differently. Things like names, which don't always have strong emotional connections, are harder to recall quickly. But here's what Diane learned. You can work around it. She started writing things down, a quick note on her phone with names and little details about people she sees often. Carol, neighbor, loves yellow tulips, has 2 cats. It sounds silly, but it works. Now, before she goes to an event or runs errands, she skims her notes. A quick refresh, and she feels more confident. If you forget someone's name, just smile and ask again. Most people appreciate your honesty more than a fake smile and a vague, hey, you. Sudden exhaustion from simple tasks. Here's another one that caught Diane off guard. One afternoon, she made herself lunch, loaded the dishwasher, and sat down on the couch, and then couldn't get back up for 2 hours. Her body felt like it had just run a marathon. Fatigue hits differently in your 60s and beyond. What used to be minor tasks now come with a surprising physical toll, and it's frustrating. Diane would find herself canceling plans or skipping her walks just to rest. She felt like she was being lazy, but she wasn't. Her body was just adjusting. The key, pacing. Diane now spreads her tasks across the day. Instead of cleaning the whole house in one morning, she does the kitchen after breakfast, the laundry in the afternoon, and tidies the living room before bed. She also makes hydration and light snacking part of her routine. If I go more than a few hours without a snack or water, I crash, she says. It's not glamorous, but it works. Weight gain. Without lifestyle change. Diane had always maintained a steady weight. Nothing extreme, just balance. She walked every morning, ate relatively healthy, and kept active. But around 66, something changed. Her jeans didn't fit quite right. Her arms looked a little softer. And she hadn't changed a thing. It's a classic sign of metabolic shift. As we age, our metabolism slows down, muscle mass declines, and the same amount of calories suddenly sticks around longer than before. For Diane, this wasn't just about appearance. It was about how she felt in her own skin. She didn't go on a fad diet. Instead, she started focusing more on strength. Simple bodyweight exercises, light dumbbells, yoga with resistance bands. The goal wasn't to lose weight, but to keep her muscles active. She also cut down on sugar and processed carbs. just enough to feel lighter and more energized. It wasn't overnight, but within months, she felt like herself again, not because of the scale, but because her energy and confidence came back. More frequent medical visits. When Diane first retired, she imagined herself traveling, gardening, maybe taking a painting class, what she didn't expect, spending so much time at the doctor's office. It felt like every few weeks she had an appointment, a routine checkup, a scan, lab work, a referral. It was overwhelming. "I felt like my calendar belonged to my doctor," she joked. But deep down, it made her uneasy. Was something wrong? The truth is, regular doctor visits are a sign that you're paying attention. They're not a burden. They're a gift. They're your front line of defense against future health issues. Diane stopped looking at them as interruptions and started organizing them into a system. She created a simple health journal, tracking her medications, symptoms, questions for her doctor, and follow-ups. Now when she walks into the clinic, she's prepared, she's focused, and she gets the answers she needs. Diane never used to think of herself as short-tempered. She was calm, patient, the kind of person people came to for advice. But lately, little things had started setting her off. A delayed package, someone cutting in line, a noisy neighbor's dog barking at 6 a.m. At first, she brushed it off as a bad day, then another. Eventually, she realized it wasn't just the world being annoying. Something inside her had shifted. It's more common than you'd think. As we age, our emotional regulation can change, partly due to hormone fluctuations, brain chemistry shifts, and frankly, the sheer emotional weight of everything else going on. But recognizing it was the key. Diane began practicing mindfulness, not in a lofty, abstract way, but in 5-minute increments, breathing slowly when something irritated her, stepping outside to reset instead of snapping. She kept a small journal by her chair, where she wrote down moments that triggered her and looked for patterns. One thing she discovered? She was more irritable when she was hungry, tired, or feeling disconnected. So she started prioritizing rest, healthy snacks, and short calls with friends, even just to say hi. The changes didn't erase her frustration. They gave her power over it. Now, when she feels her fuse getting short, she knows it's a signal to slow down and check in with herself, feeling a loss of independence. For much of her life, Diane was the one other people called when they needed help. She ran errands, handled home repairs, even helped her daughter move into her first apartment, all by herself. But recently, something shifted. She had trouble carrying her groceries from the car. Her back hurt after vacuuming. And for the first time in years, she had to ask someone to drive her to an appointment because she didn't feel steady behind the wheel. That request was harder than she expected, not because she didn't trust her neighbor, but because it made her feel like she was giving something up, like her independence was slipping through her fingers. It's a tough adjustment. But Diane learned that accepting help doesn't mean surrendering independence. It means protecting it. By getting help with the hard stuff, she was able to conserve energy for the things that mattered to her. Baking with her grandkids, tending to her roses, journaling each morning. And slowly, she realized something surprising. People want to help. Asking doesn't burden them, it connects them. So now, instead of resisting, she builds a team. A friend for tech help, a neighbor's son for heavy lifting, a rideshare app on her phone just in case. She hasn't lost independence, she's redefined it. Grieving your former self. This was the most personal challenge Diane faced, and the one she never expected to feel so deeply. One night, while flipping through an old photo album, she came across a picture of herself in her early 40s, strong, smiling, mid-hike on a mountain trail. And something in her chest ached. Not because she missed the hike, but because she missed her. That version of herself who felt untouchable, limitless, full of time and energy. There's no easy way to say this. Part of aging is grieving. Not just people you've lost, but versions of yourself you've left behind. The body you once had, the roles you once played, the speed, the confidence, the sparkle, But Diane did something powerful. She let herself feel it. She cried. She journaled. And then she turned the page. She reminded herself of what that 40-year-old didn't know. How deeply she did love her grandchildren. How strong she'd be in the face of loss. How much wisdom she'd gain simply by living. She started writing letters to her younger self, not out of sorrow, but out of gratitude. Because that version of her paved the way to this one. And though different, she is still worthy, still vibrant, still her. Fear of the future. As much as Diane had adapted to the present, there was one thing that still kept her awake at night. The unknown. What if her health declined quickly? What if she became a burden? What if her mind faded faster than her body? What if she had to move from her home? These questions didn't come every day. But when they did, they hit hard. And pushing them away didn't help. So she brought them into the light. She started having honest conversations with her doctor, her kids, and most importantly, herself. She created a simple plan. A will, a power of attorney, a written list of preferences in case she couldn't speak for herself one day. Not because she was giving up, but because she was taking control. With those steps in place, she felt something new. Peace. Not everything in life is certain, but she realized that facing the future didn't have to mean fearing it. It could mean preparing, protecting, and then letting go of what you can't control. Learning to love the present. One of the most beautiful shifts Diane experienced came unexpectedly, in a quiet moment. She was sitting on her porch, a warm mug of tea in hand, watching a squirrel scramble across the yard. Nothing big was happening. No event, no visitor, no task to check off. And yet she felt completely present. That's the gift age eventually offers, the ability to see beauty in the stillness. The wisdom to know that life is happening now, not in some future moment when things are easier or better. She doesn't wake up every day feeling joyful. Some days are tough. But most days she finds a moment, just one, that reminds her she's still here, still living, still growing. Rediscovering purpose. After a lifetime of working, raising kids, volunteering, and managing a busy household, Diane found herself in a strange place. Still busy, but a little unanchored. The day-to-day was full of small tasks, but something deeper was missing. It wasn't just about having something to do. It was about having something to believe in. For a while, she ignored the feeling. Watched TV, rearranged furniture, tried new recipes. But none of it stuck. What finally made the difference was when she started mentoring younger women in her community. It began as a one-time talk at the local church, sharing tips on aging gracefully. But it lit a spark. Diane realized her life experience had value. Her stories, her mistakes, her victories, they weren't just her own. They were lessons others could learn from. And in giving those lessons, she found a renewed sense of purpose. Now, she volunteers once a week at a community center, helping young mothers with everything from budgeting to emotional support. They think I'm helping them, she says. But really, they're saving me. Whether it's mentoring, creating art, learning something new, or even sharing your story online, finding a new purpose in this stage of life can transform it from something you get through into something you own. Rebuilding confidence. Confidence doesn't disappear overnight. It fades in small, invisible steps. The first time Diane skipped a social event because she felt too tired. The moment she didn't want to be in a photo because she didn't like how she looked. The time she stayed quiet, even when she had something to say. It didn't hit her all at once. It built slowly, until one day she realized, I don't feel like myself anymore. So she made a bold decision. She was going to rebuild her confidence from the ground up. She started small, got a new haircut, bought a blouse in a color she never used to wear, said yes to a coffee invitation she'd normally decline. Each action added a brick back to the foundation of how she saw herself. She even took a public speaking class at the library. Not because she had a speech to give, but because she wanted to hear her own voice in a room again. That single act reminded her she still had things to say, and people who wanted to listen. Confidence isn't about being fearless. It's about acting even when you feel unsure. Every time Diane pushed herself just a little further outside her comfort zone, her world got wider. Letting go of perfection, Diane used to believe aging meant doing everything right. Eating kale, walking every day, never missing a doctor's appointment. But that mindset quickly became exhausting. Eventually, she realized something profound. There's no prize for being perfect. Some days, she skips her walk. Some days, she eats a cinnamon roll for lunch. Some weeks, she doesn't feel like being around anyone. And guess what? She's still aging gracefully. The obsession with doing it right was actually making her feel worse. So she let it go. Not entirely, but enough to give herself permission to be human. Now she follows this rule. Progress, not perfection. She celebrates small wins, like remembering to drink more water or getting outside for 10 minutes. She doesn't punish herself for off days. And in doing so, she's created a life that feels more balanced, more joyful, and most importantly, more real. Building a legacy, not just a life. As Diane's perspective deepened, her focus shifted from just living to leaving something behind. Not necessarily money or property, but wisdom, kindness, a sense of meaning. She started writing a journal, one entry per week, with stories from her life. How she met her husband, what it felt like to become a mother, the time she failed, and how she grew from it. She added recipes, jokes, even poems. It wasn't for social media. It was for her grandchildren, her family, and maybe one day a stranger who needed to hear it. Legacy doesn't have to be big. Sometimes it's the way you show up for someone, the advice you pass down, the way you model strength, even when things are hard. For Diane, legacy became her North Star. Not a heavy pressure, but a gentle guide. Every decision, every moment of kindness, every lesson learned was another thread in the story she was leaving behind, celebrating the wins, big and small. Now, Diane celebrates things she used to ignore. Sleeping through the night, laughing until she cried, catching her reflection and thinking, not bad today. Trying a new recipe that actually turned out edible. Getting through a rough week and waking up hopeful again. Aging isn't about doing less. It's about appreciating more. She throws herself little celebrations, lighting a candle at dinner just because, wearing lipstick on a Tuesday, watching the sunrise with her coffee like it's a private concert. These tiny acts have become rituals of joy. They remind her that even as some things get harder, others become more meaningful, more vivid, more hers. A final message to you. If you've made it this far, maybe you're like Diane in some ways. Maybe you faced changes you didn't expect. Maybe you felt tired, or forgotten, or unsure of your place in the world. But here's the truth. Aging isn't an ending. It's a recalibration. You're still here. You're still learning. You still have something to offer. So don't shy away from your new chapter. Write it boldly. Ask for help when you need it. Speak up when you have something to say. Laugh loud, cry when you have to, and keep showing up, especially for yourself. Because this life, this is yours, still full of beauty, still full of meaning, still unfolding. And if Diane has taught us anything, it's this. You're not done yet, not even close.